Welcome to Gist3 TV, where African stories come to life. Don't forget to subscribe and comment where you are watching from. They used to whisper his name in the school corridors like it carried weight, like it wasn't just a name but a statement. Tochukwu. The boy with 3 drivers, 2 phones, and 1 life no one could touch. He never had to look at price tags. While others saved lunch money for weeks to buy a pair of sneakers, his arrived in custom boxes flown in from overseas. His father, Chief Damian Okafor, was one of the biggest business moguls in Anambra, and everyone knew it. From politicians to headmasters, from the gatekeeper to the market women, people bowed at the mention of the Okafor name. Tochukwu walked with that confidence, the type that came from knowing the world moved to make space for you. He wasn't arrogant, but he wasn't naive either. He played football only when he wanted to, answered teachers when it suited him, and passed exams with the help of a tutor flown in from Lagos twice a week. He was everything a storybook prince might be: rich, smart, and effortlessly charming. But the thing about stories is that they turn when you least expect them to. It happened on a humid Monday morning in June. The sun hadn't fully risen, and the school assembly was dragging when the principal was handed a note. He paused, looked at Tochukwu in the crowd, and called his name softly, like it might break. When Tochukwu walked out of assembly that day, it was the last time he did so with his shoulders high. His father was dead. The news unraveled like a badly tied parcel, first whispers, then wails, then chaos. Heart attack, they said. Others claimed foul play. No one really knew, and it didn't matter. What mattered was that in the space of a breath, everything changed. That night, Tochukwu and his mother returned to a house that suddenly felt unfamiliar. Lawyers showed up like vultures with clipped wings. There were deaths, many of them hidden behind the golden gates. And the relatives who used to smile with white teeth now came with cold eyes and louder voices. Properties were seized. Accounts were frozen. And within a week, the house, the cars, the staff, the very fabric of their existence was torn apart like old cloth. Tochukwu returned to school 2 weeks later with a different uniform. Not the designer one he used to wear, but the standard fabric everyone else wore, only his had faded edges and the scent of a hurried wash. The driver was gone. He now walked to school. His classmates stared, some with pity, others with satisfaction. The throne was empty. The crown had slipped. But she saw him, Amara. She was not the loudest girl in school, nor the most noticeable. Amara blended in like sunlight in the afternoon, present, soft, and easily overlooked if you weren't paying attention. But Tochukwu noticed her now, not because she approached him, but because she didn't. When everyone else whispered, she was silent. When others watched him fall with the glee of crows circling a carcass, she looked away, not out of pity, but dignity. That first day back, when Tochukwu stood alone by the water tank, unsure of where he belonged, she walked past him and dropped her bottle near his. No words, no dramatics. Just quiet acknowledgement. It was days before they truly spoke. It happened after school, when rain threatened to burst from the clouds and the other students scattered like seeds in the wind. Tochukwu lingered under the almond tree, counting coins, unsure if they would cover the transport home. Amara appeared beside him, holding a broken umbrella and a nylon bag. "You can walk with me," she said, not looking at him. He didn't speak at first. He wasn't used to offers. Not without something expected in return. "Why?" he asked. She shrugged. "Because rain doesn't care if you used to be rich." They walked in silence. Her umbrella was too small for 2, so it tilted toward him more than her. He noticed that. And he didn't forget. Amara lived in a modest one-room extension behind a small provision shop. Her mother sold bread and cold drinks. Her younger brother, Ifeanyi, sold boiled groundnuts on weekends. Life had never handed her more than what she earned, but there was a richness to her world that Tochukwu found foreign: quiet meals filled with laughter, simple clothes folded neatly, a mother's touch that felt like home. Over time, he found himself drawn to her space more than the echoes of his old life. The friends who used to swarm him now passed like ghosts. He sat in the back of class. He no longer topped tests. Hunger had a way of slowing your thoughts. But still, she noticed him. She shared her notes. She taught him how to budget food money. She gave him back part of himself he didn't know he had lost. One afternoon, months after his father's death, Tochukwu arrived at her compound soaked from rain. His mother had been evicted again, and they had no place to go. He held only a plastic bag with his father's worn wristwatch and a few notebooks. Amora opened the door before he could knock. "I don't have anywhere to go," he said. She didn't speak. She simply moved aside. Inside, her mother served him hot yam porridge without questions. Her brother offered him his own sleeping mat. That night, Tochukwu cried, not because he had fallen, but because someone had caught him. More time passed. School resumed. Exams came. Results followed. Tochukwu was no longer the star, but he was steady. He got a part-time job helping a local mechanic on Saturdays, learned the value of sweat. His hands became rough, his shoulders straighter. He started to rebuild, not a castle, but a quiet life of work. Amora stayed beside him, not like an ornament, but like a lighthouse. She challenged him. She reminded him that his name meant praise, and it didn't need a mansion to carry weight. Then came the scholarship. A foundation, one his late father had ironically donated to in the past, opened applications for indigent students. Tochukwu applied, not expecting much. Weeks later, he was called in for an interview. And a month after that, a letter arrived. He had been selected. Full university funding. Accommodation. Allowance. He stood in Amora's compound holding the letter, his voice shaking as he read it aloud. Her mother wept with joy. Her brother danced. Amora simply smiled. "You see," she said, "you were never poor. You just needed to remember how to build." And so, Tochukwu left the village with nothing but a borrowed bag, a scholarship, and a heart full of gratitude. But he promised her he'd return, not just for visits, but for something more. Years passed. Tochukwu grew. He graduated top of his class in mechanical engineering. He got a job, then another, then built something of his own, a firm focused on sustainable energy in rural communities. His story became one told in magazines and university halls. But he never forgot the almond tree, the broken umbrella, the girl who walked beside him when no one else did. And one day, in the same school compound where he once stood forgotten, a car pulled up, and Tope stepped out. Not with bodyguards or noise, but quietly. The children stared. Teachers whispered. But he walked straight to the provision shop behind the school. There, Amora was teaching a group of young girls about menstrual hygiene, her voice calm, her eyes alight with purpose. When she saw him, she smiled, exactly the same way she did the first day they met in the rain. He knelt down in the sand and pulled out a small velvet box from his coat pocket, and said, "You saved me. Now let me spend the rest of my life saving you too." The village compound erupted that evening, not with noise, but with warmth. Word spread fast. Tochukwu had returned, not as the boy who lost everything, but as the man who had found something greater. Amora did not weep, not even when her mother wrapped her in trembling arms, whispering prayers to the heavens. She simply held Tochukwu's hands, and nodded once. That was all the answer he needed. They married in the same village school field where he once stood alone in the rain. There were no gold-plated invitations or elaborate fireworks, just woven mats, clay pots of palm wine, laughter, and the soft beat of the don-don drum. Children danced barefoot under the mango trees. Old men drank slowly, nodding with pride. A few of Tochukwu's former classmates came, too. They didn't say much, but their eyes did. Life had a strange way of humbling and exalting all at once. Tochukwu didn't forget the foundation that had once lifted him. In fact, his company now funded hundreds of scholarships across the state, under the name the Amora Trust. He insisted the logo bear not his initials, but a silhouette of an umbrella tilted toward another. Their home was not in the city, though he could have built 10 mansions. It was in the same village, just a few streets from where Amora grew up. A large bungalow with a garden in front where Amora grew medicinal herbs and taught girls from nearby villages how to use them. Behind the house, Tochukwu had installed solar panels and rainwater harvesters, innovations he piloted before rolling them out across rural communities. The house was modest, but full of things that mattered: sunlight, books, laughter, purpose. Years later, when their daughter, Muna, asked her father why they never moved to the city like other wealthy families, Tochukwu smiled and said, "Because wealth without meaning is just noise. And everything that saved me was here, quiet, strong, and true." Sometimes, he would return to the school field alone, standing under the almond tree that had once sheltered him. He would touch the bark with his roughened hand and remember the boy who counted coins and carried shame like a second skin. Then he would look up, the sky clear and wide, and feel a peace deeper than applause. The villagers, too, never forgot. Every time the rain returned and children huddled under trees, someone would say, "That's where it began. That's where Tochukwu rose again." And always, someone would nod and add, "Because she saw him. Because she stayed." And perhaps, that was the real story. Not just about a boy who lost everything and rebuilt, but about how, in a world that turns fast and forgets faster, one person's quiet love could be the anchor that saves another. Not with grandeur, not with wealth, but with presence.